So we are here with the second one of the Green New Dream Forum series. We're here with good folks from Mutual Aid in Tompkins and Cortland counties who have stepped up and been making sure people don't fall through the cracks as everything goes haywire around us. My name is Sujata Gibson. I'm running for New York State Assembly. People being here and sharing with us is not an endorsement of me. This is just people doing the mutual aid work, coming here to talk about what they're doing, and us using this as an opportunity to explore the changes that we need to make to move forward. So last week we were talking generally high level about how to really make a more sustainable, resilient society that can withstand the many coming challenges that we know are on the way. This pandemic has shown us just how brittle our system really is, and really that we're not ready for what's coming next, because we know that in addition to more pandemics, and we're going to be seeing food shortages, water shortages, climate refugees. We have an economic collapse now, a global economic meltdown. So we're going to have to really figure out how to do things so that we can take care of each other. Last week, the overwhelming consensus of the panel really was, as a first step, if we're going to make all the changes we need, which includes getting a guaranteed jobs program, getting people out there growing food and paying people to be putting in infrastructure and getting ourselves ready and making our world more sustainable, we're going to have to first learn how to bridge some of our divides. And so it really occurred to me as mutual aid is the first step there. My dad grew up in India under colonialism, and he got to be he was a boy when India won her independence. He was 9, and he got to march with his family and others and really stand up to centuries of divide and conquer strategy that had gotten people so divided that they really hadn't been able to come together. But part of the way that they were able to come together, and a key part of Gandhiji's strategy, was mutual aid networks and giving people that ability to work on the basic needs together, because your differences start to go away. So, and also it gave people the security to be able to stand up together and fight for what really matters, not these stupid little differences that we fight over, but what really matters, which is taking power back for the people. So here we are with our fearless leaders who are helping us pave that network now. I'm gonna go around and ask each person to introduce themselves and just say a little bit about what you do and like your day job or what it was before the pandemic, and kind of how you got involved in mutual aid work. So Liz, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I'm Liz Pickard. I am with Cortland County Mutual Aid. I have been an organic farmer for 13 years, and I'm currently a graduate student at Syracuse University. I happen to be in between classes right now, so was using that opportunity to kickstart some rural community organizing in Cortland County, which is a very distinct region of upstate New York with very, very specific culture and set of needs. So thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for being here. Before we go into the next panelist, I just want to note for anybody watching in the audience, and this is also being live streamed and recorded, but feel free to throw questions up in the chat as they arise, and I'll take questions from the chat as well, and we're just going to kind of have a conversation. So, Matt, you're up.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Matt Stupak. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm working with the Mutual Aid Tompkins group. I joined on pretty early on when this particular group got started. Yeah, that's kind of, let's see, I was working as a line cook until the state of emergency was declared. And then everyone at my restaurant got laid off. And I'm doing delivery driver for another restaurant right now. And yeah, no idea what I'll be doing 6 months from now. Everything's up in the air.
Anna, would you like to go next?
You hear me? So my name is Ana Ortiz. Wow. So I'm Latina. I live in, I'm from Puerto Rico. I have like 20, I think I live in Ithaca for 25 years. And before the pandemic and the crisis came out, um, I was doing catering myself, like people order some food, and I was working as an event coordinator, and that's I do the Latino festival and kid stuff. I was working in Southside to do some cooking presentation, and now so right now with the I'm partnered with Mutual Aid, and I have my own organization called No More Tears, No Más Lágrimas, and we partner with different organizations around in the county and around the area. And I'm so happy like everybody in here like trying to represent us as a community. And thank you so much to Yata and everybody to invite me to represent. And I'm representing the Latinos in Ithaca. So, any question and all stuff, I try to um, bring more information in Spanish so the people they have a hard time to understand English. So I collaborate with a lot of organization in Ithaca to make sure they had the Spanish information for my Latino folks.
Great. It's so great that you can be here. Did I get everybody who's on right now? I think I did. Don't see everyone in the audience, but I think Josh Dolan will be joining us after he's done with his cooking class. Really sounds like a lot of you are in food, huh? Would you say that a lot of the people who started this, these kind of networks were coming out of the food industry?
Well, Josh Dolan started the Facebook group that kind of gave birth to this new organization. He has his own farm, and as you heard, he's doing a cooking class right now. He's also working with Solidarity Gardens through us. Like, food is kind of the lowest common denominator, I guess. So it does make sense that people thinking about food systems kind of see the problems coming forward.
So how did all this get started? I remember when Cornell announced the students were going home. I know I was in a ton of meetings. I was talking to Josh, and everybody was kind of talking. How did you so quickly form this amazing net? Well, first of all, what is mutual aid? Before we actually even go into how it started, what is mutual aid? Anybody can jump in, any of our panelists.
I'll jump in, I guess. So mutual aid is kind of an idea that started a while back. I think the anarchist political ecologist Peter Kropotkin was actually the first person to coin the term mutual aid in his book, which is available free online on Kindle if anyone wants to read it. But yeah, I mean, essentially the idea is that the institutions that exist to help people, the Department of Social Services and all those other types of programs and charity programs are not necessarily there to empower communities to take care of themselves. And, I feel like, sometimes they do the opposite. I care, Sujata, you mentioned food, and Matt, you mentioned food too. We're also involved in the food system, and I think a lot about food sovereignty and that idea of sovereignty, and for strong, resilient communities to have the ability to take care of themselves, to feed themselves, to produce their own food, and that extends to other types of resources too, not just food, but everything, healthcare, housing, transportation, education, whatever it is. And this idea that, we can exist in an economy, in a different kind of economy where giving and sharing is really the foundation of our exchanges and how we value exchange.
Anyone else want to jump in with some thoughts on mutual aid too, and just kind of the basic definition of what it is or description?
Well, for me, when I joined the mutual aid, it was kind of like have the different community leaders together and share the, I don't know, the talents, the way we can communicate in the community. And for example, like you know, I mean, we have different area. The people they just afraid to just go through because about, you know, like social for the, like about the money or how far the mutual aid can help out different town too, because when we start in the mutual aid, we just start in local and then everybody just spread out the word and you know, and then we just kind of like communicate each other, helping each other and trying to survive the way we can. And, you know, like as a community or agency, or for me, it's like when I started doing my group with the No More Tears, you know, I just get together a team and they just have some different talents to help out in the community. And then after that, we just getting more and more people volunteer too, because without the volunteers, I feel like nothing happening in the community, because United Way have these volunteers to deliver the food, the mutual aid, you know, the tracker and connector, you know, they're the one, you know, keeping an eye, because me as a community leader, I cannot be everywhere. You know, I cannot have my eyes everywhere. So I think the way that I see it, and part of my team is how that we can helping each other, how we can be connecting, you know, because we cannot be everywhere. But if somebody, like right now, we so honored to be part of the Cortland County Community, you know, mutual aid, and right now, Marathon New York is getting connecting with us too. So it's kind of like the word out. How that we can pass the word out so we can help each other, have
Right.
some funding, have some money,
Yeah.
have some stuff. So I'm glad that we starting, and right now it's something more bigger than before.
Matt, how would you describe mutual aid?
Geez, well, I mean, the concept of like communities, like being in actual community with each other, like neighbors knowing each other and knowing who to rely on and having like relationships of trust, that kind of thing is not new. That's like how humans got as far as we have. And I think it's only been fairly recently, as like the economy's been industrialized, especially in the United States, where people get more and more siloed off in their own homes and like aren't super connected. Like for me, it's very rare growing up to like know who my actual neighbors were. And like communities of color in this country like have long been left behind by like those kind of large institutional safety nets that leave a lot of people behind. And so like the mutual aid work has been done in some capacity under the radar for a long time. And like the fact that we're getting organized now and people are showing up, I think is just because for the first time much larger parts of the community are realizing how vulnerable they really are, and that we have to come together in this way. So we're really trying to like learn from that example, and not, you know, like what we're doing is not new. It's not like we don't necessarily even have all the best answers of how to do it. We just like kind of showed up because we pulled our heads out of the ground.
So it was, and you know, and Anna has certainly been organizing for years. I mean, you're out there doing mutual aid way before the pandemic hit or any of this happened. You were just out there delivering food to people who needed food and saying, hey, what do you need? I got you. And, you know, people kind of, you know, from what I know, and I'll let you talk more about it, you already kind of were the go-to person in the neighborhood that people said, well, Anna will know what to do with this. I've got this extra crib or something. She'll know somebody who needs it. And but how did you start doing that, Anna?
Well, tell you the truth, it was not easy. It was kind of like, at first I was scared, because, like as me, coming from Puerto Rico, I speak Spanish, and people sometimes, because you not educate yourself, like have like college degree, an associate, or you're not even finished school, when you see other people in the community and they're like, where you coming from? Where's your degree? Where, how do you know this stuff? And I say, because I wanted to help, because for me, when I started, because I have the same situation myself, and I say, because that's why No More Tear is, because at first in my personal life, I was suffered with some service. My kids had some medical stuff. I don't know how to do, and I have like a domestic violence situation. I was in abuse for a lot of years, and I decided and said, I cannot stay and cry. I need to wipe my tears and get going. So the way that I wanted to teach the other people, another person, maybe I can save one life. And people, they're like, well, wait a minute. You don't have no building. You don't have no name. Well, where you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from Puerto Rico. My name is Ana Ortiz. I'm going to do this if you not like it or not. And people, they just start knocking my door and always make a fun and say, hey, Ana, you make the cafe? You guys make the empanadas? And I was like, okay, you talk about food. What you want? What you need? And we just starting from my house. And thank God to my team and my community, we celebrate 15 years after all that stuff. So, and I feel like if I motivate just one person at a time and do things in the community, me and God, if I be good with God, the rest, I don't care. Well, I care, but that's why I feel like, when No More Tears is, it's about community and, what I mean? And I try to motivate all people to start in something. Like, we so proud about Colon, what I mean? I was scared to just communicate or something about the color thing and all the races and all stuff, but Colon take me like I was the family. They treat me right. So, and sometimes that's what you have to do. It's like, go up there, show yourself, care about the community.
So jump in and start doing it is what I'm hearing. So let's go back to March 12th. I think Cornell said, the students are leaving until June, March 12th, and then I think it was the next day that SUNY Cortland said the same thing. And many of us were very quickly realizing the economic impacts that was going to have, and then along with all the other uncertainty with the pandemic. So Josh, I hear that, welcome, by the way. I hope you had a good cooking class. This is Josh Dolan, everybody. And I will let you introduce yourself, and then if you would launch, or just to say a few words about how this all got started, because I understand that the kind of mutual aid group, you started a Facebook page or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty, like, that first weekend was just crazy, and like people were having conversations online, and I kind of saw some like threads that people were just talking about mutual aid and that we needed to respond. Yeah, I started the Facebook group after consultation with Juliana and a couple other folks that were, it's all a blur. But, very early on in that first week, there were just people coming out of the woodwork to be part of the organized team. And people kind of over the next week kind of found what projects they wanted to work on. And then we've just been picking up steam since then. I was involved in Occupy.
Oh,
Sorry, I was involved in the Occupy movement, so it felt very similar to that. People coming together in an online space to organize around community issues, and Occupy members started Occupy Sandy after Hurricane Sandy came through, ripped up New York City, and they were way more successful at delivering direct aid to communities than the Red Cross, for instance. We have a lot of organizations in town that are, Christian-based aid organizations that you have to jump through a lot of hoops. We have different social services that can be very demoralizing and dehumanizing, and so mutual aid is kind of about like respecting the humanity in people, not asking too many questions, and just trying to get help to people, no questions asked.
so if I remember it, it's kind of a blur for me too, but I think it started with like a spreadsheet, right? So there were spreadsheets floating around. You guys customized it. And made it.
Seattle and Portland had come out with mutual aid Google Forms that we just copied during that first phase, and then
And you just
looking for
like,
volunteers. And that kind of, we were originally going to add a form that was just asking people what help they needed, but we decided we needed to get the volunteers in place first so that we could actually handle the influx. But also the immediate needs page turned out to be very kind of a rapid response situation where people could just ask for help, and individuals on their own could use that space to reach out. So
people can just write, I need diapers, or I need some help with, moving this thing, or my neighbors need something. And then somebody would just write back on Facebook and say, I got you, I'm coming over, I'll private message you to find out where you live. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, yep. And now we have a whole system in place, but we have several ways that people reach out to us. They reach out to the moderators a lot on the Facebook page. They can email us. They can ask for help on the immediate needs page. They can fill out a form. And now we have the neighbors network, so they can ask their neighbors for help, which is the ideal because, when this all started, like I have a healthy level of paranoia. I've been involved in politics a long time and activism enough to know that like stuff can actually hit the fan sometimes. And, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you, right? There was some questions about how the stay-at-home order was going to be enforced. Was the National Guard going to be on the streets? Were the police going to be arresting people? Nobody knew. But it turned out to be a lot more tame and a lot more boring than maybe we all expected. But the things on the horizon coming are very real. Like if there's another outbreak, a second surge of COVID-19 in the fall, which a lot of people are predicting, going into a hard winter, and people are stuck inside and not able to get to the grocery store, or the economy continues to decline, and there's like rationing, or gas prices all of a sudden shoot up. There could be a lot of unforeseen problems that come along in very short order. So I think as we started as a rapid response organization, and I use that term loosely because we were just a bunch of individuals that came together in an online space. But I think at this point, we're kind of at a turning point where we're grappling with some of the bigger questions about, what does, are we going to have compensation eventually if we're writing grants? Are people going to get compensated to do this work? Are we going to support this project? Are we going to support Anna's project? Are we going to support the Solidarity Gardens? Do we want to have like a permanent space? These are all really important questions to be asking right now, because I think this needs to be a sustained effort, and we need to be thinking about it in terms of a much longer term scope of just like today, getting through today, which is where we started. 2 months ago, we hadn't done anything, and now we have a whole new 501c3 organization, and we've raised $30,000, and we have dozens, if not hundreds, of volunteers that are that are working on this day in and day out. That's pretty amazing stuff. And I think the makings for a real social revolution. And this is happening nationwide across the globe, you know? So I think we need to be thinking now that and every revolutionary organization starts this way. If you look at the history of like the Black Panthers or Hamas or different, you know, the peasant revolutions in response to the enclosures in England and industrialization, it was all about taking care of people that were down on their luck and really couldn't take care of their basic needs first and foremost. And then once you're able to meet those basic needs, then that you can open the door for political education and discussion about, okay, this is a big problem. This is why our needs are not being met. This is who's to blame. How do we change things? And so I think as much as we're still dealing with immediate needs right now, I think we also need to be organizing for the long term and thinking about transforming the social landscape in town and addressing the race and class issues that are very real. And if you listen to people of color in Ithaca, this is one of the hardest places to be a person of color in the country because of the level of racism here. And as a white person, it took me years to see that, you know, but now that's become one of the number one goals I have as an organizer is dealing with racism. But we just have a real opportunity here, and you can better believe that the nefarious forces in our government, in the corporate world, in the alt-right, are fully taking advantage of this moment for their own agenda. So you better believe that the left is doing the same thing, because we have to take advantage of this crisis, because we don't know how many more shots we're going to get at this. This is literally life or death. So
I hear you. Yeah, definitely. I opened this.
Still in the middle of my cooking class over here. So,
well, thank you for joining us, Josh. It's great to hear these out. That's so in line with, I opened this while you were still in the cooking class by talking about India and what my dad, you know, would share with me about how they were able to kind of overcome some really serious racism and just so many divisions that had really been fostered to keep them separate and have a revolution against the biggest imperial power in the world without firing any shots. And they did it in large part by starting with things like this, mutual aid networks, to take care of basic needs and get people together. And I think it's key right now. We're in a crisis and we have to. I'd love to.
I would definitely caution. I would definitely caution that kind of. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just gonna say I don't want to paint like a totally rosy picture, and I would never advocate for violence. But you know, there is that saying like without Malcolm, there never could have been a Martin. You know. So that was saying if there weren't like organized Black people with guns and the threat of violence, you know, the more moderate Martin Luther King nonviolent movement never could have happened. The same thing could be said of India. There was also, you know, radical elements that were willing to like take more drastic measures working alongside the nonviolent movement, or not alongside, but at the same time.
There are many factors, but I will say mutual aid was a big part of it. But
yeah.
I would love to hear from you, Liz and Anna. You're working a lot with the Cortland movement too. Like, how did you guys start to come together, and what was your story on that?
Yeah. Okay, Anna, you mind if I take that? Thanks. Yeah, I think. You know, I really appreciate the work of the Tompkins County folks, and to put things in perspective, Cortland County had a much different start, the mutual aid group here. You can scroll through my Facebook feed and see me becoming increasingly agitated over how hard it was to make anything happen in Cortland County. And I will attribute that to several factors. One is that it's a majority rural county. We don't have an urban area, a large urban area, but also it's an extremely low income area. And we do not have the resources that Tompkins County has. We do not have the intellectual, social, and monetary capital that Tompkins County has. And it's a very different organizing landscape here. I'm not feeling as optimistic as Josh is about the revolutionary potential of these movements. Of course, I have a lot of hope, and otherwise I wouldn't keep doing this work. But I think that, you know, that most of upstate New York is more similar to Cortland County than it is to Tompkins County. And I've been doing rural community organizing and mutual aid for over 10 years. And I've been doing it since the fracking, whole fracking thing started. And the reason that I started doing it was because I come from a rural family and I was seeing a lot of mistakes that the left was making. And they've been making the same mistakes since Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto in the 1800s. So, and you can read the history literature and see, you can see history repeating itself over and over and over again. Rural communities are in a lot of pain right now. And I don't want to center the struggles and challenges of white people in this conversation, but I do want to bring up the importance of recognizing class. And I think that we should be doing a better job of building alliances with rural people, and that's a long game. I've lived in Cortland County for 3 years. I've been building relationships here for 3 years before I would even dare touch anything like this. So it's definitely a long game. It's a different culture. It's a different type of community to be working in a rural area. And it's been a big challenge. We still don't, Josh mentioned how much money did you guys raise? $40,000 or something? I've raised,
I think it was 30, yeah.
I've raised $140. So yes, thank you, Anna. Very proud of that. I just wanted to put all of that in perspective. This is really hard. So, yeah. And Anna, do you want to say, please add to that? Because Anna's help has been absolutely instrumental in getting anything off the ground. I felt like I was spinning my wheels for 8 weeks up here, and I just needed her to give me a little bit of support and kick in the pants and a lot of collaboration and help.
So I think Liz, you're doing an amazing job. You see that 140, I think is the that's I feel like the winning when you feel like it even if it's $1, when you enjoy the, it's kind of like awesome. And I think it's when I see the Cortland folks and the people in the community is because I think they just need to have motivation to have something to work for it. Having like somebody that can help them like to hands, because when we went to Main Street, everybody was kind of like, oh my God, you're here? They just need the hope, just a little bit hope and little bit of the, like somebody just thinking for a second. It's like, oh my God, somebody care just to bring a box or, and, the way because we not an expert, we just learning. Like when we did it, the Cortland Mutual Aid, but the first time yesterday, my God, I was so nervous, scared, but the way the community respond to us, they like, wow, thank you. And I was like, oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's okay. And each us have different talents and the way to communicate with the community. So it went so well, and we did it small. We did it like I was delivering 45 boxes with food and chicken and all the stuff. I had some donation over here. I got my van all full of stuff, and not even a single person say, wait, is that little? Or didn't even question how much they was getting, to give up to them. They just so appreciate in the face and see people outside to be care. That's why I was so honored to be around the Colons community, because there was like a team effort. I mean, everybody was helping each other. And Sujata, you did an amazing job. Probably you look in the first and say, okay, how they started, but naturally, that's what happened. You have to come in natural to come and do things. And that's, I mean, I look forward. We always gonna get some, we're not perfect. We're trying to do it the best. And for me, for No More Tears, I'm trying to show in the community, we need to appreciate each other, our time and effort, because, Matthew, from my team, he was driving and delivering all the boxes. And then I wanted to say thank you to him, because without him, with the truck, was not even happen. And then a lot of people in the mutual aid, they was donate some money for get some stuff. And then all my team, we just grab anything and everywhere. So it was a team effort. I really appreciate all the stuff we
So
came out.
yesterday, I didn't, so that was the first event. That was pretty impressive, especially, I thought it was very impressive just coming in as a line helper, but you guys really pulled off a big thing. There were seedlings everywhere, toys, books, huge boxes of food, and people were they were there before 4 o'clock, and this was the first event. So, people hadn't even heard about it, but people were hungry and they needed that food, and they really appreciated it. I ran into people afterwards on the street, socially distanced, but they said, "Oh, you're one of the people that were doing the free food. Thank you so much." And I saw this family having a birthday party with their 3-year-old girl who had come to the thing, and they had all this food to like have, they were not like, they were in the yard, so they were like having but they had all this stuff to really make a party, and they were hungry. Like, people were they really needed it, and they were excited about the vegetables and the seeds. I mean, it was great. It was very exciting to watch, and I was very impressed by what you pulled off for a first one. But it does sound like there could be some like coordination so that some of the extra resources in Tompkins County can also, go to helping our neighbors in Cortland and other counties. I don't know if Schuyler County has started a mutual aid network or not, but what is the best way to sort of bridge that and to sort of figure out how we can have networks that can support each other with different strengths?
I think just passing the word out, though, because at first, like right now, No More Tears at helping Marathon New York and King Ferry, and what's a little bit part of the Bigginton. And tell you the truth, I was not even know how much we impact helping the neighborhood around. So I think passing the word out, and Facebook, it did an amazing job. Social media, did a good job. And then probably different agency passing the word out, I think they did a great job, at least trying to communicate with different towns.
Matt, do you have thoughts on how, how we can kind of help each other between counties?
Yeah. Like Tompkins County is definitely by far like the wealthiest county. Like just like the amount of money that people are freely giving, that like people have been donating their entire stimulus checks to mutual aid Tompkins. They're like, yeah, I don't need this. But and like soon the city of Ithaca is going to get like $190,000 just for rent relief. And that's going to be a drop in the bucket of what the ultimate need is. Like to me, it's like, where is this money actually flowing when we like spend it at grocery stores? Like we can throw money at the problem forever, but like there's not an infinite amount of money in Tompkins County, and less of it is going to be coming in and more of it's going to be going out. Like, where does the money go that you spend at Walmart? It doesn't stay in Tompkins. to me, we have to decouple these basic necessities like food, housing, childcare from the ability to access money that's going to get more and more scarce as time goes on. I don't have a a clear answer for that, but we need to figure out like if there is food, it doesn't matter if anyone can buy it. Instead of letting it like rot in a lot somewhere or dumping thousands and thousands of gallons of milk just out of these tanks, like how do we just like make sure people can have it and have that be okay? Sujata, you're muted if you're speaking.
Sorry. What are some of the ways that, to change gears a little bit, that you reach out to people who don't have access to the internet? And how are these like, can you guys talk a little bit more about this neighborhood pod system? Because that might be something that can translate, and also it's just a great model.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously not everyone has internet access. Not everyone even has a phone necessarily. So we're trying to create as many different ways of getting in touch as possible. Like we have a mailing address. For now, we still have the postal service. But yeah, so, but like kind of going back, like we touched on before, like we have like these charity organizations, these social service organizations that are like a central place, and it's kind of a model that like forces people to rely on that thing. And if that thing is not able to like process your claim or get to you, or they don't have you on your list, if you're like undocumented, like then you're out of luck. So the kind of the longer term strategy is like having neighbors be in touch with each other. And so one kind of model of that is called neighborhood pods, is a common one that you hear around the country and the world, which is basically like people reach out to neighbors in their immediate area and set up some kind of communication network, whether it's a phone tree or like setting signs out in your window for your neighbors to see as they walk by, communicating your needs or things you have to offer. And so like people might end up being surprised like how much is actually available in their immediate neighborhood without having to reach out to like United Way or Mutual Aid Tompkins for that matter.
And then you have the further challenge of, people can't really just knock on each other's doors as easily and just come on in and say, hey, do you need anything? Like, how do you deal with social distancing and trying to do mutual aid and community organizing?
Well, so far the data seems to suggest that like packages are not a major transmission risk. So using printed communication seems to be a safe way. We've, for our part, we've been like leaving flyers in the cracks of people's doors and allowing people like here's a bunch of different contact info, or I'm going to be walking this block about this time every night. So you can keep a lookout. If you want, you can put a sign in your window, and some, me or another block captain or whatever, someone who's taking responsibility for the neighborhood can see it and connect with you however you're comfortable. But yeah, it definitely is a lot harder, and it also presents a challenge for building that initial trust if you're not able to have the face-to-face conversation. So
you're
yeah,
setting up block captains, or people will volunteer and say, I want to be a block captain. It's a lot of data to manage. I mean, how do you kind of organize all that?
Yeah, so the practice we have in place for like that particular program or branch of our work, if you want to call it, is like block captains. There's no reason that they have to share whatever info they gather with like a larger network. It's just like, hey, you reach out to your folks, and you can be the point person for that network. If you want to connect with this like wider network of volunteers or resources, we'll just trust you to advocate for your neighbors. Like we take everyone at their word. Yeah, and so, but kind of supplementing that is this kind of centralized thing where like people are filling out a form for this like rapid immediate needs response. And so we have a team of people. We're careful about who we onboard for accessing that particular data. It's kept in a particular place, and everything, like we're asking for consent each step of the way. Like, hey, I know you gave us this info, but is it okay if I pass your number on to this volunteer who said they might be able to, bring groceries to your area?
And then Liz, have you had a chance to get some of these like templates and stuff? I know that there was like different volunteer forms created, put up some like legal language to protect, but you know, that you could sign up and talk about what you can, what kinds of things you might be able to offer and what kinds of things you might be able to need or might need. So sometimes people would fill out, and ideally people would fill out both, so it's kind of a mutual thing. But do you have all those forms and everything? I mean, is that like a helpful thing just to have them all in a Google Doc where you could get them?
Yeah. I've been talking and thinking about that for several weeks now, and the reason why we don't have those at this moment is because I don't have anyone who can manage them. So our main challenge all along has been mobilizing people in our community. And like we were, your previous question, Sujata, about sharing resources between the counties, you know, I think one of the challenges with doing that is that you really have to know the community that you're working in. Not all the time, obviously. You know, Anna just showed up, and Anna has family members here, so I believe that she knows and understands the community, even though you don't technically live you technically live in Tompkins, right? That, yeah, okay. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, so we don't have those because I don't have anyone to manage them. I was on the phone with Juliana Garcia earlier today because we have a phone now. Anna bought us a Cricket phone, which is awesome, and I'm really excited about it, but I don't know how we're going to manage it because, you know, it's basically me and Anna and a couple other folks, and, you know, our capacities are all limited in certain ways, you know, regardless of our ambition and desire to help. So, you know, I think tomorrow we have our standing weekly meeting tomorrow, and I think one of our the biggest thing that we're going to have to work on is just onboarding volunteers. And I hope that we can find a way to do that effectively, because in the past, when I have tried to mobilize volunteers, it hasn't been as successful as I would have hoped. But really, we need people on the back end who are willing to say, you know, I will take a day where I manage all of the requests, and I will go through the database and organize it and update it and match people and blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know if it has to be a whole day or whatever, but, you know, anything. So hopefully that's on the horizon for us.
If people know, I have a question from David Foote, but I'm sure that this applies generally. If people know about people in Cortland who might be interested in getting involved, is there an email address or some way that they can contact the right people to be able to start jumping in?
Yeah, definitely. We have an email address, cortlandmutualaid@gmail.com, and I'll put it in the chat box. And I'll also, I don't know, yeah, I don't have our phone set up, so I'm not gonna put our phone number. So unfortunately right now, you know, and like Matt was saying, flyers and personal interactions is really important, but right now all we have is the Facebook page and our email. So hopefully we'll be having other ways that folks who don't have internet or computer access can get in touch. But for now, I'll put our email address and Facebook link in the chat box.
And I will say this, I mean, I've been more on the outskirts of it. So Matt and Anna and Josh, you might want to jump in, but yeah, I've been kind of keeping involved with mutual aid since the beginning. And one of the things I saw was, I think there was a lot more of those feelings of people feeling overwhelmed and like, oh my God, there's all this stuff and how are we going to do it all? But you guys kind of over time, as you worked out your systems, it seems like things are getting more defined of like who has roles, and you don't all have to be doing this from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. every day to try to get the crushing need met, right? Or am I?
I mean, I think Josh would agree. We were working at like a pretty unsustainable pace at the beginning in like the so-called like storming and forming phase. And yeah, as we figured out, like, okay, here are things that like we absolutely have to do and focus on. And like we had like an absurd number of of different projects that are all like vitally important, and we honestly kind of pared it down for the time being and are focusing on like a few key areas of the work. And once we figured out that, then we figured out how we can onboard new people and like also like communicate things in an understandable way, so that like if you weren't in this from the beginning, like you can actually plug in and get your bearings.
So what are your top like projects that you're really trying to work on right now?
Well, so one thing that's really exploded is these food sharing cabinets that have been going up around Tompkins County. I don't know how many we have right now, but it's over 40. And they're basically these outdoor cabinets that volunteers like take ownership of and like just stock with dry goods of all different kinds, like food or sanitizing supplies. There's information about safety. There's information about like a wider network. We have like the immediate needs kind of rapid response kind of hotline thing where people are like, like I need groceries delivered within these couple days, and we match volunteers with that. We have like people who have signed up to be like neighborhood stewards, and so we advise like, here's how to do that safely without like risking transmission of the virus. Here's some materials that you can use to flyer your neighborhood, and here's how you can like connect with the wider network. What else are we doing? We have we're starting to explore partnerships with other organizations. Like we have this relationship right now with Multicultural Resource Center to do these series of like chill and chats where they basically talk about like the experience of people of color and how like this kind of vulnerability is not new, and like the kind of lessons we all need to be taking from this moment.
Right. One of the things that's so inspiring about mutual aid is that there is this trust that people give, and this just kind of really empowering sense of agency that everybody has, and that is often lacking when you have nonprofits giving a service to others, and it's really nice with mutual aid though, because whether you're getting something or giving something, there's this attitude and this feeling that it's for everybody. I wonder how we can grow that and keep that strong, because it really is, I think, the key to some of our transformations, to really empower local communities that way.
Yeah.
Can I chime in here?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was just thinking, reflecting on what Liz was saying, and also, similar to what I heard from MRC when we first started talking, is that Mutual Aid Tompkins just came on the scene and was able to raise $30,000. I don't know what the exact number is at this point, in the last 2 months. And meanwhile, like that might be like the amount of money that MRC raises in a year or even more, so they've been doing this work, other people have been doing this work, and we're kind of the young upstarts with this like high profile Facebook page that just kind of blew up all of a sudden. But as we grow, I think what Matt was saying about our relationships with other organizations, I think, we are serving as kind of like a foster parent, I guess, for Mutual Aid Cortland, but maybe there's an opportunity to like deepen those bonds. And I mean, there's arguably a higher need for this work in Cortland County than there is in Tompkins County, just judging from the amount of resources we've been able to muster. So, and since this is happening, I think we do have like the potential to unify these organizations on some level around the country to kind of reach more people and raise our profile and even like maybe get to the point where we may have some kind of political power, But I think starting close to home and like strengthening our support of Cortland and the surrounding areas, working with the farm workers and the Cayuga Nation and and this other solidarity work that we're doing, I think is very important. It's just as important as the immediate needs work.
Well, we are almost out of time, but I just want to thank you all so much for the work that you are doing building our community. I am sure that it can be overwhelming and feel all sorts of ways, but you know, it really is making a palpable difference to so many people. It really is growing community in all the ways that we really need to move forward and to start to make some of these bigger changes. And I hope that people watching, you know, either now or later when this is recorded and shared, can, you know, you want to sign up. If you want to sign up, if you haven't signed up already, there's Facebook pages for both groups, right? That you can just click join, or there's the email for Cortland Mutual Aid is cortlandmutualaid@gmail.com. And there are phone numbers on the Tompkins Facebook. So if you really want to call someone or something, we can try to get that information to you. But I think it's really exciting that both, you know, that we have the Cortland group taking off like this. Yesterday was amazing. And the more support that we can all give to that, the better. So thank you for joining, you know, me here tonight with all the stuff you guys are doing, and keep up the good work. And I hope I can be helpful, and I hope we can all jump in, because this is our future. Thanks, everybody.